My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my ranking of Darren Aronofsky's filmography from worst to best. And I think this guy is a very fascinating filmmaker. Most of his movies are great, and I like how emotional they can be. I like how he deals with heavy subject matter. And I also like how so many of his movies explore similar themes of addiction, obsession, death, religion, mankind, and the treatment of the planet. And I like how he deals with those ideas in such distinct ways. So, like this guy is one of my favorite directors, and let's get going with the ranking, beginning with his worst movie, and it's The Whale. Now, this movie does have some good makeup, and I think Samantha Morton gives a good performance, but that's where my positives end. Brendan Fraser won an Oscar for this movie, and I don't see why. It's a very fine performance at best. Hong Chow is fine. Sadie Sink plays an unlikable character, and there's nothing she could have done to elevate her. Ty Simpkins is really bland, so the cast really didn't do much for me. The movie's an hour and 46 minutes, and it felt so much longer. I think the ending of this movie is one giant joke. And my issue with this movie is that it's about this guy who has made terrible, selfish decisions that has affected his family greatly. And the movie never wants to hold him accountable. It wants us to feel sorry for him because he feels bad about it now. But instead of doing better, he's actively in the middle of killing himself. So I just feel like it's a very manipulative, misguided movie. I'll never watch it again, and it's just baffling that such a great director made it. It is the anti-The Wrestler. His second worst movie is Pi. It's the very first one he directed, and it does kind of have that first film he directed look to it. I think there's some great sound design, but it's just not a movie I ever want to watch again. I found it to be very boring. It doesn't stand out in any way. It's just forgotten about. It leaves no impact whatsoever, so that's why it's his second to last. Now there's a huge jump in quality, beginning with his sixth best movie, and it's The Fountain. Hugh Jackman gives one of his best performances ever here. He is amazing. Rachel Weisz is also very good. Ellen Burstyn, I thought, gave a great performance. And this movie is a lot more accessible than I thought it would be. It's definitely ambitious, but the emotion keeps it grounded, and I was on board with it the entire time, and it did move me to tears. The music by Clint Mansell is absolutely beautiful, and I like how this movie explores religion and death, and how some people are afraid of death. And they'd seek out immortality. They'll find any way to prevent it. But it's also death that can give our life purpose, and how our fear of it can really drag us down. And I thought he explored that in such a thoughtful manner. It can feel overly pretentious at times, but it still really worked for me. So that's why it's my sixth favorite Darren Aronofsky movie. My fifth favorite, and this actually kills me to put it this low on the list, because I love this movie. I think this movie is fantastic, but the other four are better, so it pains me, but Noah is his fifth best movie. This is the most challenging and ambitious blockbuster of the past couple decades. Like, admittedly, the movie does take a while to get going, but once it does, it has so much on its mind, and it tackles the story and the thematics in such a compelling manner. I like how they give this story the big epic action feel, but there's some real psychologically terrifying stuff going on, and you feel the weight of it. And like, the second half of this movie just had me on edge, and it made me feel sick to my stomach. Like, really effective stuff. But I also like how the movie does end on a rather hopeful note. I like the direction here. I think this movie has a few stunning sequences. Like, the creation of the planet is told so beautifully. The visual effects are mostly good. And I really like the cast. Russell Crowe, he does a great job. Emma Watson, she's very good here. Jennifer Connelly, she's great. I liked Logan Lerman. And yeah, like I just think there's so much to this movie, and every time I watch it, I like it more. So it pains me to put it only at number 5, but I guess that's the way it goes. My fourth favorite Darren Aronofsky movie is Requiem for a Dream. Now I do want to say that the first half of this movie did kind of bore me. It took me a while to get into it, but my goodness, the power, the weight, the effectiveness of the second half of this movie is something I will never forget. I knew this movie was about addiction, but I thought it was going to be a lot more simplistic than it actually is. Instead of just showing a bunch of addicts doing drugs, and you do got that, there's also a story here about missed opportunities and regrets and loneliness that just allows you to see how addiction could happen to anyone. Nobody is safe. You've got a mom and a son who couldn't be any more different, yet they have the same fate. The music here by Clint Mansell is absolutely beautiful. Like, it is haunting, it is effective, it is just brilliant. And the last half hour of this movie is so stressful, so anxiety inducing, and it just had me on the edge of my seat, only to punch me in the gut for the final 5 minutes. It is utterly devastating stuff, and I think everyone here gives a great performance. Jared Leto, Marlon Wayans, very good. Jennifer Connelly, amazing performance. And Ellen Burstyn should have won an Oscar for her work here. It is some of the finest acting I've ever seen. So yeah, I just think this movie is brilliantly directed, written, acted. It is fantastic. My third favorite Darren Aronofsky movie is The Wrestler. And Mickey Rourke gives the best performance I've ever seen from him. He is amazing here, and he carries this movie so incredibly well. I thought Marissa Tomei was really fantastic. Evan Rachel Wood really stands out. And this movie nails every emotional beat it's trying to hit. This movie broke me several times, and I just found it to be very powerful. It's a story about a wrestler who gets beaten up, inflicts pain on himself and others, and he's addicted to steroids, and he might not have plenty of time left. And he tries to reconnect with his daughter, but he's not successful in that regard. And it's about how he gives in to the pass on life he chose for himself. And unlike The Whale, I feel like this movie manages to be emotional. You understand him, but you also recognize that this is a tragic story, and the main character is no one to be is no one to motivate you. He's not someone you should look up to. He's a broken man just filled with regret and pain, and you really feel the weight of that. I also think the direction in this movie is top notch. There's a few uses of sound that will stay with me forever, and there's one scene that where he's cutting meat and it just builds so perfectly and just fantastic. So I think this movie is just an utter triumph. It is amazing, and yeah, I loved it. My second favorite Darren Aronofsky movie is Black Swan. Natalie Portman gave one of the best performances I've ever seen in this movie. She is just perfection. She plays this shy, insecure girl who's trying to tap into a darker side of herself but is just unable to. And as the movie progresses, it peels back the layers of this character and her relationship with her mom and what her life is, and it just gives you a new, insightful look at her. And then watching her change, watching her grow, it's like, it's a good thing you're coming out of your comfort zone, but you're going too far. And because of that, there's a real tragic element to this story. The ending of this movie with the clapping and cheering going into the end credits, it's utterly haunting. And once again, Natalie Portman is just fantastic here. Barbara Hershey, I think, is also incredible. You think she's the supportive mom at first, but you start to realize there might be more to her character, and she just plays it so well. Mila Kunis is filled with personality, and she's great. Vincent Cassel, you know, he's a scumbag, but he also gets shit done. So I thought he was a really complex character, and I really like the whole element to this story. It's not just this girl trying to achieve perfection on a psychological level, you also get it on a physical level, which I thought just made it feel fresh and new. I thought the music here is really great, the filmmaking is top notch, the cinematography is absolutely stunning, and I just love everything this movie is trying to explore thematically about trying to achieve perfection. And it's a movie that just stays on my mind all the time, and I think it's brilliant and haunting and emotional. I love it. That's why it's my second favorite movie of his. But my favorite Darren Aronofsky movie is a hot take, but it's Mother. Like, this movie is just perfection. I remember when it came out, I heard very divisive things, and when I saw it, it just blew me away. There is so much to this movie about fame and celebrity status and the treatment of the planet and mankind and religion, and it just has so much to say that to dissect this movie and to talk about it could take me hours. There's so many layers to this movie, and you can interpret in a number of ways, and each one works. But I also feel like this is one of the most unique horror movies ever because it is absolutely relentless. It is stressful, anxiety-inducing. You're just watching this character getting disrespected, getting gaslit the entire time, and it's just a very sickening movie on a psychological level and eventually on a physical level. And like the last act of this movie is just like I've never seen anything like that. Well, this house is getting overcrowded and it turns into a rave and then into a war zone, and it's just, what's going on here? And it's just very effective at every level. And I think the performances are masterful. Ed Harris does a good job, but the other three are just standards. Jennifer Lawrence carries this movie so incredibly well, and she makes you feel every bit of anxiety she's feeling. And then you've got Michelle Pfeiffer, who's just this quietly manipulative person who cried, stabs at Jennifer Lawrence. These subtle moments of disrespect, and it just gets under your skin. And then you've got Javier Bardem, who's just neglecting his wife, ignoring her every wish, and he's really effective as well. So, like, I just think there is so much to this movie. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a masterpiece, in my opinion. I think it's so incredibly well made. I think it's just one of the most ambitious, effective, brilliant, unique movies ever. Like, I love it. And that's why it's Darren Aronofsky's best movie. So, yes, that's my ranking of his filmography, but what's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more videos soon, and Gavin out.